So this is a continuation of the fats lipids lecture. In this really short lecture, we're just going to look more specifically at essential fats that are specifically triglycerides. So essential fatty acids, really this is what we're talking about, are the fatty acid chains of the triglyceride molecule that are essential to the human body. So we abbreviate the term as EFA. So the reason these are essential is because human bodies cannot make these types of fatty acids, thus we must consume them from our food supply. Not only is it that we can't make them, but it's that they are essential for various functions throughout the human body, so particularly overall health, immune system, growth, and development. They are required for our health, and we cannot make them in our bodies, therefore they are essential to consume from the foods. Typically, essential fatty acids are polyunsaturated, and this is just a little jargon about the fact that the chemical reason that they're essential is because humans don't have the capacity to insert a double bond between the first carbon in the fatty acid chain and the 9th carbon in the fatty acid chain. So there are two major classifications or types of fatty acids. We have linoleic acid and alpha linoleic acid. Linoleic acid is what we call an omega-6 fatty acid, and that's basically because of where so it's an 18 carbon chain with 2 double bonds, and based on where that first double bond falls, we call it happens at the sixth carbon, so we call it an omega-6 fatty acid. We find linoleic acid in sunflower, safflower, corn oil, soy oil, and peanut oils. And then a different type of essential fatty acid, or the other main one we want to know about, is alpha linoleic acid, or ALA. It is an 18 carbon fat chain with 3 double bonds, and the first double bond occurs at the 3rd carbon, hence the name omega-3. So we find alpha linoleic acid in dark green leafy vegetables like your kale or your spinach or your collard greens or your even some types of romaine lettuce or French lettuces or your Swiss chard. We also find it in flax seeds, hemp seeds, walnut, soy, so soy containing both. And again, a lot of foods will contain both, but we classify it based on which it has more of, and the chia seed. So alpha linoleic acid, it is interesting because in the human body we will convert it to 2 other technically essential fatty acids, eicosapentaenoic acid and docosahexaenoic acid. These do also occur in nature. So typically we find EPA and DHA in green algae like seaweed and fish that consume green algae. Here is your schematic of another schematic of saturated fatty acids. You'll see at the bottom, here's our linoleic acid, our omega-6, and down here is our alpha linoleic acid, our omega-3. And so what we're counting is the placement of the first, where this red marker was supposed to fall was at the 9th carbon from the omega end. But anyhow, it's after that point that the human body can't add the double bond. So anyway, it's kind of irrelevant. This page is really just more for you to see the structural layout. So linoleic acid having the 2 double bonds starting at the 6th carbon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the alpha linoleic acid with 3 double bonds starting at the 3rd carbon. And then you can see EPA and DHA. Part of why essential fatty acids are important for us to know is because we do convert them into what are called eicosanoids. And eicosanoids are molecules that basically regulate inflammation. And they do that by regulating things like the motility or basically function of our gastrointestinal tract. So how well are we digesting? How well are we absorbing molecules? How well are we having regular bowel movements? Our blood clotting, our vascular constriction and our vascular dilation, and then also the permeability of our vascular structure. So how well are we letting molecules out of our blood vessels? How well are we allowing molecules into our blood vessels? So all of these are functions of the inflammatory response in the body. So we see eicosanoids present in nearly every cell in the body, and I hope I just said they're derived from essential fatty acids. So again, we have two sort of classifications of eicosanoids, those that are derived from linoleic acid and those that are derived from alpha-linolenic acid. So this is a gross overgeneralization, but most eicosanoids that derive from linoleic acid, the omega-6, are pro-inflammatory. This is actually really important because when we do, say, break a bone in the body or have a really serious infection or even a minor infection or sickness, we do want a functional inflammatory response as part of the immune response to deal with that injury or infection. So we need to have a properly functioning immune system and inflammatory response. The eicosanoids derived from alpha-linoleic acid tend to be anti-inflammatory or sort of shutting down the inflammatory response. So also really good to have, because if we only had the pro-inflammatory eicosanoids, we'd be in what we call a chronic state of inflammation. So we do need to have a balance of the two, such that when we need inflammation to heal a broken bone or to fight an infection, at some point, hopefully in the not too distant future, we need to have then an anti-inflammatory response to start shutting down that inflammation pathway and returning the body to normal homeostasis. So we really don't want to have too much of either one. Otherwise, right, you'd either be chronically inflamed or you'd be suppressing the immune system. So really balance is best here. So here is another schematic then of the essential fatty acids as they convert into eicosanoids. Actually, no, this doesn't show the conversion into eicosanoids at all. These are still just other fatty acids. So linoleic acid, which is our omega-6, converts into what's called gamma-linoleic acid. This can also be found in some herbs, basically. And then GLA will convert to arachidonic acid, which we also find in meat. And so then from here, when this says pro-inflammatory products, these are pro-inflammatory eicosanoids. On the omega-3 side, we see the alpha-linoleic acid again, typically flaxseed, hemp seed, chia seed, walnut, converts to eicosapentaenoic acid, again, which we find in fish, typically if they've been consuming green algae. And then docosahexaenoic acid, which we find in green algae and also fish if they've been consuming green algae. And then these convert to anti-inflammatory eicosanoids. And then interesting, you see GLA, see how it can become an anti-inflammatory. So again, the notion that omega-6 are all pro-inflammatory and that omega-3 are all anti-inflammatory is actually very misleading, because they do have some crossover. It's just that most omega-6 are pro-inflammatory and most omega-3 are anti-inflammatory. And again, really just having like a one-to-one balance of intake of the two types of essential fatty acids is what's helpful.